Greetings and welcome to another edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I want to make this video upon the return of The Walking Dead. Well, almost, right? Because they did a cheesy thing. They gave us one more episode of season 10, after which we now still have to wait weeks for the rest of season 10, so that they could sort of mosey us on into watching the premiere episode of The Walking Dead World Beyond, which premiered immediately after that one more episode of The Walking Dead. So I was a little cheesed at that. I thought The Walking Dead was back for the rest of the season, but it's not. They just put an episode on so that we would watch the thing after. But we got Maggie back, right? So that's good. Maggie's officially back in The Walking Dead, although she hasn't talked to anybody yet. She's just sort of showed up, which I guess means we didn't get any more than we got in the preview before this episode when the last one was on. And so I don't know. If I sound a little unenthusiastic about The Walking Dead, it's because, it's been on a long time and they're getting close to that jump the shark territory, which I guess they finally figured out because it is ending after next season. We're going to get one more season. The last season is going to come late next year, 2021, and it's going to be 24 episodes, which is good. Of course, they'll probably break that up over 5 years. No, so that's good, and I'll wrap it up. No word on what that means for Fear the Walking Dead, which I guess takes place during the same time period, but in a different part of the country. I never really watched that. I watched the first few episodes because this was supposed to be a show about how the world was before the outbreak and how the outbreak happened. And I really wanted to see that. And I did for 3 episodes. And then they just became The Walking Dead Part 2 with a different cast. So I bailed. I'm already watching that show. You know what I mean? Anyway, so that's going to come to a close after next season. Now, they just debuted The Walking Dead World Beyond, which I guess is only supposed to run for 2 seasons. It's going to be 2 10-season episodes. And that takes place 10 years after the start of, the zombie apocalypse. Now, it can be tricky because, of course, the original show, The Walking Dead, has been on for 10 years. It started in 2010, going into the 11th season next year. But on the show, 10 years have not passed, even though, certain actors have obviously aged 10 years, or in the case of Carl, 8 years or 9 years by the time he left. But the time that passed in universe, let's see, I wrote it down here. It's about 7 years. And I get to that figure. Let me tell you what I'm working with here. According to Screen Rant, AMC has confirmed at some point that the jump between seasons 8 and season 9 is 18 months. So almost actually just a year and a half exactly. And they've said that the period between season 1 and the end of season 8, Robert Kirkman has said that it's just under 5 years. So if you figure that's 4.75 years, 4 years and 3/4, just under 5 years, right? For the first 8 seasons. And then a year and a half for the 18-month jump, you're looking at 6.25 years. If you round that down to 6, just for the sake of it, and you add season 9 and half of season 10, maybe 7 years. We're looking at 6 to 7 years. And that's important because now they've introduced, as I said, World Beyond, which we know takes place 10 years after the origin of the zombie apocalypse. And it has to look further into the future than The Walking Dead does in terms of where humanity is, what's happening with people. And once you know that The Walking Dead has only been on, the time period of that show is only 7 years, where they are in World Beyond does make sense. I watched the first episode. I'm glad it's only going to be 2 seasons of 10 episodes because I don't think I'm going to like it very much. I am, however, going to watch it because it depicts the world further along, and that interests me very much. You know, where does humanity eventually end up? I assume by the end of season 11, we're going to get a more clear picture of that on The Walking Dead itself. But for now, this is a look at how things are a little further along in the future. And how does the future look? Well, there is a community that is the focus of World Beyond. And let's see, what do I have here? They are in Omaha. They're in Omaha, where Nebraska State University has been turned into the campus colony, and there are just under 10,000 survivors there. So if I'm not mistaken, that dwarfs like Alexandria and Hilltop and the other communities that we've seen so far on The Walking Dead combined. So that's pretty good. They have an alliance, the campus colony, with a militaristic group called the Civic Republic Military, or the CRM. They have a few helicopters that we see in the first episode, and we've seen helicopters before on The Walking Dead. You know, Rick was taken away in one. So that's not terribly new, but the idea that there is some sort of functioning government, and that it isn't, you know, just another warlord, although, you know, the difference can sometimes be minimal, right? But when I say warlord, I'm talking about the governor. I'm talking about Negan, or in the eyes of some, Rick and his people. So that's a cool development, that there's some now formalization, there's some return to civil society, to a top-down government situation where, you know, there's someone in charge, as it were, and communities can make alliances and fall under it, which is eventually what's going to have to happen in this world if, you know, the world, or at least in the show, the former United States of America, is ever going to become anything like what it was. There's going to have to be, you know, at least regional governments that carve the country into 5 or 6 groups, as opposed to teeny tiny little, you know, clusters of, you know, Hilltop and this and that. That's not anything resembling what the United States used to be in the world of The Walking Dead. So I think what we're seeing on World Beyond is society in the United States, or the former United States, moving a little closer to, you know, what the United States used to be. So that's very interesting. The first episode was okay. It sets up a few characters that are sort of the leads, and they're all young people, which, you know, I'm not anymore. So it might be hard for me to identify with them, but you know, it's very interesting because, as one of the characters points out, they don't remember before. They've come of age in the apocalypse. They may have been born at the start of it, or a year or two before it, but they don't remember what the United States was like, what the world was like before. So it should be very interesting to watch how they negotiate the world. Now, we've seen some of that, of course, on The Walking Dead already, with some of the characters that are young adults on the regular show, but this is going to focus on these characters every episode. But it's really cool. They are back to using motor vehicles, which is kind of weird because, you know, originally in The Walking Dead, motor vehicles were still a thing, but eventually they ran out of fuel. They ran out of, you know, ways to find or make or unearth fuel, and switched from vehicles to horses. So season 10, season 9, we're seeing everybody ride horses, but now a few years later, everybody's back to, well, I don't know about everybody, but a few years later, motor vehicles are back. We see buses, we see Jeeps, we see helicopters. So hopefully they'll sort of explain that going forward. And for that reason, I look forward to it. But yeah, bummed out that they only gave us the 1 episode. of Walking Dead. I thought it was back. I thought we were going to get to see the rest of season 10, but not yet. We still have to wait. And then, of course, season 11 will wrap it all up. And, again, it's about time. They were getting a little long in the tooth. I've stayed through it the whole way. A lot of people have dropped out that people I know who used to watch it have dropped out. I still watch it. I recognize it's not what it used to be, but it's worth watching, I think, still. There are very few original characters left, but the ones that are left are near and dear to myself and my wife who watches it with me. Carol, Daryl, that rhymes. I like the Negan character. I like what they've done with him, post Negan War. I think his character development's been great. So I look forward to seeing that continue. But, the premise is getting a little old, and I think going out after next season is probably the right thing. And I hope they can wrap it up, and then we get to not watch Fear the Walking Dead do the exact same thing. Like, how are they going to dovetail that? Once they establish where everything goes with The Walking Dead, they're going to have to move Fear the Walking Dead towards that same thing. So we're already going to know where it goes. Like, I don't know, maybe they'll end them both at the same time. Like I said, I don't watch that show, but for the people who do, if they also watch the regular Walking Dead, why would you keep watching at that point? You'd have to really like the characters, and you'd have to really want to see where their individual stories go. But we'll see. Anyway, that's where we are. Would I give World Beyond a 5 stars? No. Would I give it 3 stars? Yeah. That's about it. I look forward to the next episode of that next week, and that's it for now. I just wanted to talk a little Walking Dead. So, stay healthy out there, and I'll see you next time. Until then, peace and long life.